Just walk it off. You're fine, my mom said sharply, while I struggled to catch my breath through the pain. My sister rolled her eyes. He's only doing this for attention. Even my dad muttered, he just wants to ruin the weekend. But when I blacked out and the paramedic finished the scan, he looked at them and said, "You need to call a lawyer, because the MRI showed—" "For God's sake, Ethan, stop being dramatic," Mom snapped, her voice slicing through the living room like a blade. "You've been lying on that couch for hours. We all have things to do." "He's only doing this for attention," my sister Brooke muttered without looking up from her phone. Dad didn't even bother to look at me. "Don't start with this crap now, son. You just want to ruin the weekend." The pain in my chest tightened, but I forced myself to breathe, slow and shallow. "My name's Ethan Cole, 24 years old, and I've been the background noise in my own family my entire life. The ignored voice, the burden. Even now, with fire crawling up my ribs, the more I spoke, the less they listened. My body hurt, but what burned worse was the silence they'd carved around me for years. The family, Linda Cole, 62, my mother, retired teacher, sharp tongue, sharper memory for my mistakes. Mark Cole, 64, my father, former machinist, stoic until angered, never forgets a grudge. Brooke Cole, 29, my older sister, corporate lawyer, talks over everyone, especially me. The fight had started hours ago, not about my health, but about money. 3 days ago, I'd learned they'd co-signed a $58,000 personal loan in my name. Without telling me. "A temporary arrangement," Mom had said. "You'll be fine," she'd shrugged when I confronted her earlier. "We needed it for the house repairs, and you weren't even using your credit." "It's fraud," I'd said flatly. "It's family," Brooke corrected me, her smirk like a slap. Dad's eyes were fixed on me, sharp as a drill bit. "You think you're the only one who sacrifices?" His words came low, like an engine turning over before it roars. I kept my voice even. "Sacrifice is when you choose to give. You stole from me." That sentence didn't just land. It detonated. Brooke's scoff was almost theatrical, a laugh meant to keep the air hers. Mom folded her arms like she was holding herself together. Dad leaned back, but not in retreat, in calculation. "You wouldn't even have that credit if we hadn't taught you how to manage money," he said. "You taught me how to survive you," I said, before I could stop myself. For a moment, nobody moved. The only sound was the old clock over the fireplace, ticking like a countdown. The past came at me in pieces. 2 years ago, Brooke's DUI, her car wrapped around a streetlight, her breath so heavy with vodka, the officer didn't need a breathalyzer to guess. I had a choice. Let her rot in county for a week, or empty the account I'd been building for grad school. Mom had cried into the phone. "She's your sister, Ethan, please." So I wired the money. I thought it was love. Turns out it was precedent. 6 months later, Dad's casual. "Oh, didn't I tell you? Grandpa's will was already handled." The property, the farmhouse I'd spent every summer fixing with Grandpa, sold for $230,000. I got none of it. They didn't even invite me to the signing. That's when I stopped expecting fairness, but I didn't stop hoping for decency. And somehow, that hope was the cruelest part. The pain in my chest had been growing all night, like someone was slowly cinching a belt around my heart. I wanted to stand, to leave, but my legs gave out before I could push up. Everything blurred. Voices faded. When I opened my eyes, red lights painted the ceiling. An oxygen mask clung to my face. The paramedic, broad-shouldered, calm eyes, was leaning over me. "Stay still, Ethan. You're safe now." Safe. It sounded foreign. At the hospital, he held my chart, scanning it like a verdict. "Severe stress cardiomyopathy," he said. "Your heart is reacting to prolonged emotional strain." He hesitated, then added, "We also found an untreated rib fracture from a few months ago. Someone should have made sure you got care then. That's considered neglect." He didn't need to look at my parents for me to feel their sudden stillness. "You'll want a lawyer," he finished, his voice dropping like a gavel. The ER felt smaller than the living room, though the walls here were white and clean. Mom sat stiff in the corner, her purse clutched like a lifeline. Brooke was pacing, the glow of her phone screen flashing across her face. Dad wasn't in the room, which somehow felt louder than if he'd been shouting. "We didn't know." Mom began. "You knew," I said. My voice was steady, but each word landed like a weight on the table between us. "You knew about the loan, the will, the DUI. You knew when I was hurt and didn't ask why I couldn't move my arm for weeks." Brooke stopped pacing. Her lips trembled, but no sound came out. For the first time in years, I didn't fill the silence for them. A hospital social worker walked in. She asked if I wanted to file an official neglect report. I said yes. Mom's eyes went wide. Brooke's shoulders slumped. It was the first time I'd ever seen them both at a loss for words. 3 days later, I sat in a lawyer's office, a legal pad in front of me. Every betrayal, every theft, every moment of deliberate erasure. I wrote it down. Not for revenge. For record. When the papers were filed, Brooke called. She didn't apologize. Instead, she said, "You're really going to drag our name through the mud?" I almost laughed. "It's not mud," I said. "It's the truth, and you've been living in it for years." I hung up. The silence in my apartment didn't feel empty. It felt clean. I moved into a small studio in Denver. Bare walls, secondhand furniture, and a lock that only I had the key to. Some nights, my chest still tightened. But it was different now. Not the crushing of someone's hand on my life. Just the memory of it. And memories can't kill you if you stop feeding them. Mom's texts still came. Paragraphs of apologies braided with excuses. Sometimes I read them. Sometimes I delete them before opening. Healing meant I didn't have to decide every time. Last week I saw Brooke across the street. She looked older. Not in years, but in weight she couldn't put down. She didn't wave. Neither did I. But for a second, our eyes met. And maybe, just maybe, we both saw the truth. We were free of pretending. I'm not angry anymore, I'm awake, and that's enough. If you've ever been dismissed, betrayed, or used by the very people who were supposed to protect you, tell me your story in the comments. Would you have taken legal action like I did, or walked away quietly? Like this video if you believe family should never excuse abuse. And subscribe for more real stories that remind you, you're not alone, and you're not crazy for wanting better.